Compton is composed of a mixture of various different gangs. It houses Crips, surenos, and it's the birthplace of the Piru car, making this city one of the most violent places in LA County. On top of that, most of these gangs are damn near right across the street from each other. Because of these factors, and many more, gang warfare is a common occurrence in Compton. So a big survival tactic in this city is being ruthless when it comes to means of operation. But when it comes to Westside Pirus, who were the first Pirus to emerge from the overall Piru umbrella, ruthless is damn near an understatement. Today, we're addressing the daily Westside Pirus, and why they're known across Compton and beyond for their scandalous ways. But to start to understand this gang's means of operation, we have to go over the history of the Westside Pirus. Yeah. All right. Welcome to Cali's Most Dangerous. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. History of the Westside Pirus. The Westside Pirus, they're one of the first gangs to emerge in Los Angeles County, and the first official Piru gangs established. Being one of the first black gangs to exist in California, they have a huge attachment to California's history. So let's address it. Piru Street has a history of grooming a lot of gangsters. But in the block's earlier days, it was widely known for its hustlers. Known as bank robbers back in the days, Vincent Owens, the Bourne family, along with Mickey Blue, Clarence Grandy, Lonnie Hall, Victor, Sylvester Scott, also known as Puddin', Vincent Owens, Lorenzo Bennin, Larry Watts, also known as Tam, AC Moses, and a few of the OGs were known as the Piru Boys in the early 1960s. In this block, it had nothing but families of brothers who all got along. So the street was damn near one big family, who damn near did everything together. But by the late 1960s, the birth of the Crips brought a lot of turmoil to local groups. When Raymond Washington was attempting to transform street groups into the Crips, he was able to convince younger members who would eventually become Pirus to embrace the Crips identity for a very short time in 1970. But that relationship had been severed because the Pirus had already engaged in conflict with Mac Thomas and the Compton Crips. The early Compton Crips targeted these independent organizations because they were not a part of the Crip Alliance or any other alliance, and therefore lacked the strength in numbers that the Crips had and were very easy targets.
Puddin' was, some call him a psychopath, or different things that you might call Puddin', but he had a huge target on his back. They were always trying to kill Puddin'. I mean, come on, at that time, being a leader of a gang that opposed the Crips, it was like a trophy to kill Puddin', kill AC Papa Louie, kill Little Vince, kill the Lavender Brothers. We had targets on their back.
This put the non-Crip sets at odds with the Crips. Something needed to be done to protect themselves. So the hustlers and non-Crip affiliates proposed a meeting to figure out a solution for the Crips. The Lotus Park hustlers and the Piru Boys, along with others, met on Piru Street, and during the meeting, an alliance was established. In order to defend themselves, Bloods like the 5'9" Brims came along, followed by Piru, which is named after the street they lived on in the western section of Compton. And from the jump, these guys stood on their own and went to war with anybody who came into their neighborhood starting issues, especially with the Crips. The Blood identity came after an incident played out between Jody Crawford and Billy Flowers. I'll leave a link about what played out, this dope interview by OG Marv, where he goes in depth about it. But long story short, it gave the Pirus their nickname, the Roosters. The Roosters are red, so naturally, they started calling themselves Bloods. But to take it a step further, many Pirus began to wear burgundy flags, in addition to the red flags, to separate themselves from the rest of the sets in the Blood Alliance, essentially turning Piru into a card of their own, which are smaller alliances of individual gangs within the gang alliance itself. Anyways, there was always other sections, but originally it was the Westside Pirus, with other Pirus like Luther's Park coming soon after. The newly established Bloods established themselves to protect each other and halt the growing feuds with the Crips. But these newfound alliances only intensified an already ongoing war with the Crips, causing multiple gang fights, shootouts, and bodies being dropped on both sides. So early on, this gang was already beefing with the Crips, and been outnumbered down near 10-1, the Westside Pirus had to move militant in order to survive, which is why they are mortal enemies with pretty much all Compton Crips, several Surenos gangs, and even some Bloods. Chapter 2, Allies and Rivals. Being one of the first Blood gangs established in LA County, the Westside Pirus have formed a fair amount of relationships and alliances with other gangs. For example, the Campanellas, the Westside Pirus, and the Anthem Park Bloods have an alliance together called NWA. Not these niggas, but these niggas. In addition, they are allied with the Cabbage Patch Pirus, the 145 Pirus, Fruitown Piru, Mob Piru, Luther's Park Piru, Limehood Piru, Hollywood Piru, and the Treetop Pirus. But over the years, they've also formed a lot of enemies as well. The main rivals of the Westside Pirus are the Compton Crips. In particular, the Track New Compton Crips, Carver Park Compton Crips, Park Village Compton Crips, Nutty Block Compton Crips, and the Front Hood Compton Crips. And they're known to go at it with some Mexican gangs as well, including the Compton Barrio Tortilla Flats, Compton Barrio 155, Compton Barrio Locos 13s, and the Compton Barrio Largos 36. They've also had some issues with several different blood gangs over the years, including the notorious Bounty Hunter Bloods. And with each of these rivalries came intense gang wars, causing a lot of members, affiliates, and sadly even civilians to lose their life. But frankly, a sad situation played out in 2007 with the Westside Pirus, members of the Bounty Hunter Bloods, and non-affiliates as well. On the afternoon of June 14th, 2007, Shanette Jones and several of her friends attended a graduation ceremony at Centennial High School in the heart of the Westside Pirus territory, where she was also a student. The group celebrated older friends and family members moving on to another chapter in life, then proceeded to leave the campus. But on their way out of Centennial, one of Jones' friends, Don Shea, got into a heated argument with two other girls. Angela Washington, who was Derek Washington's 17-year-old sister, a younger member of the Westside Pirus Bloods, and Angela's friend, Lakeisha. During the argument, Angela challenged Don Shea to a fight in the middle of Central Avenue. Well, eventually, Jones, her friends, and a group of 10 other guys with some been members of the Bounty Hunter Bloods walked to a nearby bus stop at El Segundo Boulevard and Central Avenue to wait for the bus, intending to return home to the Nickerson Gardens area. Davon Harris, also known as Poo Poo, was with the group, but he had no gang affiliation. Meanwhile, at the Golden Bird restaurant across the street from the bus stop was a group of boys from the Westside Pirus. After seeing the Westside Pirus, some of the boys at the bus stop banged their hood, saying Nickerson Gardens and Bounty Hunters. In response, the Westside Pirus members said they can take it to Enterprise Park. But at the time, that was the furthest that conversation went, with Jones and the other members taking the bus to Central and 114th Street, where they exited and walked on 114th Street toward the Nickerson Gardens. Most of the boys walked ahead, while the girls and some of the boys, including Davon Harris, walked behind. But as she was walking, Jones saw Tahoe that she had seen earlier at the Golden Bird restaurant come to a screeching halt on 114th Street. When she saw Washington, who she knew as Deuce, from seeing him on prior occasions at Centennial High School, seated in the front passenger seat. And right after that, Washington pointed a gun at Jones' group and fired 8 or 9 shots before the Tahoe speeds off. Devon Harris, he was struck by a single bullet to the head and unfortunately died at the hospital 3 days later. During an investigation, which led to the questioning of several members who were at the scene, Angela said that on the afternoon of the shooting, after the graduation ceremony, Angela and her friend Lakeisha argued with the girl from Nickerson Gardens named Danshay. As previously mentioned, she also mentioned the location of each group. At the bus stop, on one side of the street were members of the Bounty Hunter Bloods from Nickerson Gardens, and across the street at the Golden Bird restaurant were members of the Westside Pirus gangs from the area Angela lived in. Lakeisha was from the Westside Pirus. However, Angela was not a part of the gang, but she was hanging out with the gang at the time. She said Lakeisha walked into the middle of the street and the bounty hunters began taking their shirts off to fight, while also mentioning one bounty hunter member, Mike, was doing all the talking. He said that his homegirl from Nickerson Gardens, Danshay, was going to fight Lakeisha, and that if she did fight, he's quoted saying, "I'm fighting too," as he challenged the Westside Pirus members to fight at Enterprise Park, with the Westside Pirus members saying that they were down to fight. That's when the bounty hunter members from the Nickerson Gardens got on the bus. The Westside Pirus members attempted to leave in their cars, but the police, who received the call that the Westside Pirus were going to shoot the graduation up, detained them, so she thought the situation was over with. But that evening, Angela heard Washington had killed Devon Harris, who she knew as Poo Poo. And later, Angela was sitting in the car with some friends when Washington arrived. He told him that he had killed Harris, saying that he and Keaton had followed the bus and watched as people got off. Eventually, the group got off and started walking in the alley towards the Nickerson Gardens housing project. So Keaton and Washington drove down the alley. They left the alley but came back, driving slowly down the alley, playing loud music in the Tahoe. So Devon Harris walked towards the car with some of the others who had their hands in their waistbands as if they were armed with guns. He said that believing he was about to be shot, Washington fired first, trying to hit Mike and another bounty hunter member known as 211. But Mike ducked and Harris was struck. Washington also told Angela that he was drunk and high, saying that Keaton had already had the gun in the car and that Keaton had urged Washington to shoot, declaring, "Bust on them fools, bust." According to Angela, Keaton, he needed to get his stripes up with the Westside Pirus, since he was like a nobody over there, she's quoted saying. In the end, due to testimonies from several witnesses, gang members, and police evidence, Derek Washington was found guilty of the murder of Devon Harris, and the trial court sentenced him to a total of 50 years to life in state prison. Rest in peace to Devon Harris. Even with just attending the graduation, which most would think wouldn't lead to trouble, he ended up losing his life due to gang violence. But the saddest part about this situation is that his mom didn't just lose one kid to gang violence. She lost 2.
I'm not supposed to bury my children. I'm not supposed to bury them. It's always the innocent one. Someone who has life and life ahead of them.
Stop the killing. Yeah. It's not fair. It's not fair to us. Thank you.
never in a million years would think that I would be burying another child to this senseless street violence.
That just shows the violent nature that gangbanging has always brought to the surface when it comes to gangs in California. Anyone can fall victim to these means of operation, whether directly or indirectly. But let's finish breaking down who are the Westside Pirus to get an understanding of how scandalous the gang warfare in this gang can get. Chapter 3. Who are the Westside Pirus? The Westside Pirus, also known as the Westside Compton Pirus or the Compton Westside Pirus, are an African-American street gang that originated in Compton, California. The members are known to sport burgundy, red, or black articles of clothing, with younger members adopting the wearing of the all-red Washington Nationals baseball caps. Their neighborhood is centered around Central Avenue between Rosecrans and El Segundo Boulevard, with a few of the cliques consisting of 134th Street, also known as the Four Line, 135th Street, and 142nd Street, also known as the Deuce Line, and Piru Street. Also, another big area the Westside Pirus have a stronghold on is Centennial High School in Compton, California, the predominant high school for Bloods in Compton, Watts, and parts of Compton. The school is attended by the Fruittown Pirus, the Villagetown Pirus, Bounty Hunter Bloods, and many more Blood and Piru gangs, with Centennial High School being in the heart of the Westside Pirus territory, which acts as the borderline between the Westside Pirus and the Villagetown Pirus.
And then when I got to Centennial, that's when shit got crazy again, because by that time, gangs was popping up and life was changing for everybody.
That's when you had that situation with Puddin', right?
Yep. Walking through the Centennial High School, and one of his boys pulled up on us, and we walking through the senior square, man, and my homeboy ran up on my partner, and homeboy ran up on him, and where you Popeye motherfuckers going? And my partner stutter. He's why we gotta be some Popeye motherfuckers? And he stole on him. Bam! He took one to the chin. He swole up real quick, and they squabbed a little bit. Security guards broke it up. 2 days later, we walking through Enterprise Park. We leave Centennial. Well, we come to Enterprise Park, and there they are sitting on the bench. Same guys we had a fight with in the senior square. Ain't no security guards now. Ain't no security guards. Now, do we run? Or we gonna try and walk past these cats like we don't see them?
They also have a second set in Carson, California. The Carson Westside Pirus are primarily a Samoan American street gang located on the west side of Carson, California. Their neighborhood is around Figueroa Street between 220th and Carson Street. The Carson Westside Pirus, they originated in the 1980s and were one of the first gangs in Carson to represent the Piru outside of Compton, California. This section of the Westside Pirus received media attention after being linked up with the Booyah Tribe, a Samoan rap group, which have sold over 1 million records. But it's also alleged that the Compton Westside Pirus also have a big artist who sold millions of records and even won more than a few Grammys. Kendrick Lamar. It's a lot of people on both sides of the fence when it comes to whether Kendrick Lamar is a member of the Westside Pirus or just affiliated. And with him allegedly even pressing AD about his affiliation, which he explains in a No Jumper interview, it's still not that simple.
Okay. Hey, you wanna know a crazy thing about Kendrick, bro? My first encounter with him, he thought I was somebody else, bro. He low-key tried to press me.
Who?
Kendrick Lamar.
Who do you think you was? Gorilla
He
Black?
from a different hood. I guess some niggas jumped him back in the day. And I came to the studio and he was mad. He was like, hey, you from Almond Block? And I was like, nah, but he was hot.
He banged on him back?
Where's Almond Block?
No, Almond Block is another hood in Compton. And I was like, nah, I ain't from Almond Block. He was mad. If I was from Almond Block, he would have got his get back on me that day.
He wasn't like, should I be tripping?
I'm outnumbered because, me and Ali, we super close. You know what I'm saying? So I'm there for Ali, but they got all their people over there.
But let's break it all down before we can answer this question. Born and raised in Compton, California, Lamar began his career as a teenager performing under the stage name K-Dot. After becoming a founding member of the hip-hop supergroup Black Hippie, Lamar dropped his stage name and started using his first and middle names professionally. In 2011, he released his debut studio album, Section 80, with it being met with positive reviews and included his debut single, High Power. But before all this, it's alleged that K-Dot was a member of the Westside Pirus. And even with K-Dot taking pictures like these and having a lot of family members and close friends from the Westside Pirus, he's still not openly a member of the gang. Go listen to Good Kid, Mad City again. He mentions his close ties several times throughout the album. Still haven't got the answer you're looking for? Then be on the lookout for the longer, in-depth version of Kendrick Lamar's ties to the Westside Pirus. Anyways, it's multiple other members of the Westside Pirus who will put out great music we're going to mention a little later. But it's also more than a few reputable members who have terrorized the streets of Compton, causing the gang to have more than a few enemies, which played out in the most deadly fashion for the Westside Pirus. Y'all definitely got to stick around for the next situation to get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. Chapter 4, Danger Rating for the Westside Pirus. The Westside Pirus have a deadly storyline when it comes to the gang's rise and dominance in the streets of Compton. They've been terrorizing their rivals for decades, which is why they're going to receive a danger rating of a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, try Westside Pirus. I promise you're gonna make you look like a fool. And if you keep testing, you may end up on one of these stories too. Bars, nigga. I'm back, nigga. I'm back. Nah, seriously. These guys have always stood on their own and have always been willing to go to war with Crips, Bloods, and even other Mexican gangs. But because of these ways, they developed numerous rivals and enemies, including the Carver Park Compton Crips, which they're in an intense gang war with, which actually led to a deadly situation that played out in 2008. On October 29th, in 2008, a drive-by shooting occurred in front of a home in Los Angeles, California, an area claimed by the Carver Park Compton Crips. S. Logan was sitting in the car parked in the driveway when a gray Volvo drove up to the house. The car was parked facing the house and away from the street. When Logan turned to look at the approaching Volvo, she noticed someone standing by the trunk of her car, but before she can get out to react, a stocky black man with a low-cut fade haircut and a white t-shirt leaned out of the window and began to shoot at the house. Logan ducked, but she was still injured by a bullet that hit the window of her car and shattered the glass. The person standing at the trunk of Logan's car was never identified, but Logan identified the gray Volvo later that evening. Logan, however, was still unable to identify the shooter during the live lineup, but in the photographic lineup, Logan identified two individuals, but denied telling the police she could positively identify the shooter. That same night, police searched a home on 134th Street in Compton in connection with the shooter. The gray Volvo identified by Logan was parked nearby. During their search, the police recovered a rifle, a sawed-off shotgun, and a 9mm handgun. The assault rifle was later determined to be the one used in the shooting. The police also recovered a statement with letters WSP written on it. The gray Volvo also had the letters WSP written in dust covering the car, which is an abbreviation for the Westside Pirus, also known to be rivals of the Carver Park Compton Crips. Alan Thomas, a known Westside Piru member, along with four other young men and his grandmother, were in the home at the time the police conducted their search. And during their search, the men were detained. Thomas tested positive for one particle of gunshot residue, but he had been handcuffed in the back of a patrol car for several hours prior to the test, and the residue may have been transferred to him there. But the police didn't test the Volvo for gunshot residue. The gray Volvo identified by Logan was determined to be Thomas's. He confirmed that that only he and his girlfriend drove the car, but denied driving the car to the crime scene that evening. And due to lack of evidence, Thomas was not arrested for the shooting at the time. But that situation, it definitely didn't end there. On January 25th of 2009, Larry Spears and several friends were talking in front of his home on East 121st Street at approximately 8:30 p.m. when a white Chevy van slowly starts to drive towards them. Once close enough, a man comes out of the side door of the van and began to shoot at the group. The men then scattered, running away from the scene. But as they were trying to escape gunfire, Spears was hit multiple times and ended up dying from the multiple gunshot wounds he sustained. The deputy medical examiner counted 27 entry and exit wounds, concentrated around Spears' head, chest, back, left arm, and left foot. Police found approximately 12 shell cases in the area that appeared to be shot from a rifle. Also, officers who were conducting surveillance gang activity in the area heard the rifle shots and noticed the van speeding off. They found it parked 9 blocks away from the scene of the shooting, but no one was in the van. However, the police found a military-style collapsible shoulder-fired shotgun in the van. 35 fingerprints were lifted from the van, along with 15 fingerprints on various items inside the van. One of the fingerprints matched Thomas's, while 2 others matched gang member Larry Mason, 6 others matched Deion Carter, and 3 more matched Jamal Colbert, including the one on the side sliding door the gunman used. When Thomas was questioned 2 months after the shooting, he again admitted that he was a Westside Pirus gang member. However, he denied any involvement with the shooting of Spears and denied ever being seen in the van before or been inside it. And the police, they were unsuccessful in trying to elicit a confession from Thomas by telling them a witness had positively identified him as the shooter. But none of that mattered because he was later arrested and his conversations were recorded by detectives. A couple months later, Thomas was arrested in connection with the unrelated robbery on March 5th of 2009. And a few days after his arrest, police placed Thomas in a holding cell that was electronically monitored with Jamal Colbert. During his conversation with Colbert, Thomas admitted to the drive-by shooting as a show of force against the Carver Park Compton Crips in their territory. Thomas also told Colbert that the Westside Pirus decided to have a drive-by shoot in the Carver Park Compton Crips territory in retaliation for the shooting death of Nathaniel Colbert, Jamil Colbert's brother and a member of the Westside Pirus. He described in detail how they planned and executed the shooting. He mentioned how it was a top priority to shoot at the Carver Park in retaliation for his brother's death. How he got out the van, started shooting, and immediately shot out his hood, the Westside Pirus, what injuries Spears suffered and how he looked when he was standing over him. Thomas also stated that Deion Carter and Aaron Coleman, both members of the Westside Pirus, were with him at the time of the shooting. He further discussed his role with the Westside Pirus gang and other crimes he committed on the behalf of the gang as well. After his statement, Thomas tried to get the confession thrown out of court by saying his Second Amendment rights were violated due to the conversation having nothing to do with his robbery charge. But the detectives, they quickly dropped the robbery charge and picked the attempted murder and the murder charge back up. So his argument was irrelevant, and in the end, Thomas was charged and convicted of the murder of Spears, and the trial court sentenced Thomas to an intermediate term of 25 years to life on a murder conviction, plus an additional 25 years to life for the firearm enhancement. Thomas was also sentenced to a consecutive term of 15 years to life, plus an additional 20 years for the firearm enhancement on each of the 2 attempted murder convictions. In total, with an addition of several other charges, he was sentenced to 120 years to life in prison. Man, rest in peace to Larry Spears. He got caught in the middle of a deadly war between the Carver Park Compton Crips and the Westside Pirus. And unfortunately, he lost his life because of it. That's just one situation though. These guys, they've been going at it for decades. And due to the ruthless nature of the prominent members on both sides, they have a lengthy history of bodies being dropped with each gang when it comes to this war. Look, we're definitely about to address some more insane situations on why the Westside Pirus are one of the most ruthless gangs in Compton. But before we get into that, we have to address some of the gang's prominent members. Prominent figures. Formed in the 1970s, the Westside Pirus have been a prominent, feared, and hated gang for more than 2 decades. So naturally, they have a lot of members who have lost their lives over the years. Some of the members resting in peace include Big A-Ball, Lil A-Ball, Fort Bent, Jerome Dunn, also known as Black Black, who died from blunt force trauma as a result of a car accident that occurred on Avalon Boulevard at Rosecrans Avenue in 2019. It's also D-Dog, Jamal Colbert, also known as Big Ducky, Lil Fuzz, Hot Dog, Jay Breezy, Kango, King JJ, Baby Cool, Lebo, Man Man, Sylvester Scott, also known as Puddin', who was a founding member. In addition, it's Pup, Ron Poo, Snoop, Kristen Gibson, also known as Snoop 5, Spice, Stunner 2, and Larry C. Watts, also known as Tamad, who was one of the first casualties when it comes to the Westside Pirus. Yeah, rest in peace to them. And y'all let me know if any other members who are no longer with us. Let their names live on. They also have some notable members who have made them one of the most respected Pirus ever established. A few of them include Mama Roo, Wacko, Bucks, Lil Bucks, AC Moses, also known as AC Babalu, Harold Bowens, Jerry Nelson, Ralph Nelson, Terry Bourne, Dennis Bourne, Terry Charter, Lorenzo, Nadi, Jerome Edwards, Murphy, and Eddie Pope. Lastly, they have a list of rappers who have made a lot of noise for the gang as well. A few include a prominent rap group who have sold over 1 million albums known as the Booyah Tribe, and they're from the Carson set. Also, it's D-Boy, who has an old school West Coast flow combined with a new school style. Y'all definitely gotta tap into his song Whoopin' and Troopin' ASAP to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Other rappers include Hitter J3, who's down near a local legend, dropping numerous tracks over the years. Plus is Lil L, a close friend of Kendrick Lamar, who's been putting out music for his game for a while as well. I couldn't find any new music from him, but y'all let me know if he's still dropping music. In addition, it's Jay Worthy, who's been dropping music for a few years, and at this point, bro's down near a legend in not only the West Side Pirus area, but all of California. He has numerous albums with Larry June, and they're classics. If you don't believe me, look up 2 Peas in a Pod ASAP to find out. It's also Wally the Sensei, who's an up-and-coming rapper who first really arrived in the music scene with his local hit, Scandalous, and he's been dropping fire music ever since. Y'all let me know in the comments if any other rappers I didn't get to mention. Let's get their music heard. In addition, there's also a few other members who I wouldn't say were prominent members, but definitely made headlines in 2015 after a 15-year-old lost his life due to gang violence. On November 14th of 2015, sometime after 9 p.m., Federico was sitting with his 15-year-old son, Jose, on the front porch of their house on Keenan Avenue in Compton, California. Federico saw 2 African-American men wearing sweatshirts walk by the house, before seeing the men turn and walk back towards the villa house. And right after that, one of them fired 2 shots, with one bullet striking Jose in the head, and unfortunately, taking his life in the process. After the shooting, Federico observed the larger of the 2 men peek over the gate into his front yard. He later identified the larger man as Lawrence Hunter, but he was not able to identify the other man. During the investigation, police obtained videos from the security cameras at neighboring houses. The video confirmed that 2 men were involved in the shooting, and further investigation revealed that Hunter associated with Marcus Bell Grant, a Westside Pirus member, and Jonathan Mayo. Police eventually interviewed Mayo and Hunter. And during the interview, Mayo told police that he saw Grant with a handgun on the day of the shootings, and that Grant said that he wanted to bust on the B-13s, and Hunter agreed to tag along. The two men then left Stephen Jordan's house for about an hour. After they returned, Mel overheard Grant say, "I just busted on the B-13s." Hunter admitted they had accompanied Grant to the Avila house, but claimed he didn't know what Grant intended to do. According to Hunter, Grant pulled out a handgun and suddenly started shooting. Hunter and Grant were charged with the murder of Jose and the attempted murder of Federico. Despite having made an incriminating pretrial statement, Hunter was still ready to go to trial. But on the eve of the trial, Hunter entered into a plea agreement. As part of that agreement, Hunter testified for the prosecution at trial. Mel, who wasn't charged in connection with the shooting, also testified as a prosecution witness. Mel testified that a few days before the shooting, Grant told Mel that he had purchased a gun. Mel also testified that on the day of the shooting, he walked with Hunter to the home of Jordan. As they walked down Keene Avenue, Hunter, an admitted member of the Campanella Park Pirus, yelled out derogatory statements at rival Barrio 13 members. While Mel and Jordan were playing video games, Grant arrived at the house. According to Hunter, Grant was an associate of the Campanella Park Pirus, saying that Grant would have to do shootings to become a member. Mel noticed that Grant was wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt that read Rosecrans Entertainment. And at some point, Mel noticed Grant holding a black semi-automatic handgun, which looked like the type of gun carried by police. Grant said, "Let's go bust on some B-13s." Mel understood bust to mean shoot. And he replied, "Yeah, let's go." According to Hunter, Grant had a black .45 caliber handgun in his waistband. However, he claims he didn't remember what Grant was wearing. Hunter himself put on the sweatshirt and pulled up the hood. The two men then left Jordan's house. According to Hunter, he intended to act as backup. If Grant didn't fire his gun for some reason, Hunter would have fired his. The two men went to Keene Avenue to look for Barrio 13 members. As the men walked by a house that was a known Barrio 13 hangout, they noticed there were people outside. Hunter and Grant returned to the house and stopped in front of it. Grant then fired 2 shots over the gate. Grant and Hunter then fled and went back to Jordan's house. Mel was still at Jordan's house when Hunter and Grant returned. They were both walking quickly and out of breath. He then heard sirens and a helicopter. He asked Hunter and Grant what happened, and they replied, "Nothing happened. Don't worry about it." Later, Mel overheard Grant and Hunter bragging about busting on some B-13s on a porch. Grant then left Jordan's house about 30 to 60 minutes after his return, and Hunter spent the night at the house. In the end, due to witness statements, surveillance evidence, statements from fellow gang members, and police evidence, the trial court, they sentenced Grant to a total of 85 years to life in state prison. Man, rest in peace to Jose Avila. Even though he was at home with friends and family, he was still in the wrong place at the wrong time, with his house being a known hangout for Barrio 13 members, which are some of the Westside Pirus' top rivals. Current state of the Westside Pirus. When it comes to the current state of the Westside Pirus, they're still one of the more active gangs in the Compton area, with them making numerous headlines due to the gang's activities. Yeah, they still continue to thrive, and they've even grown to the point where they have a presence in other states as well, like New York and New Jersey. But y'all let me know in the comments if I'm missing your state. Anyways, that's it for the Westside Pirus. Y'all got any crazy stories about these guys? Any close calls? Did I miss anything? Did I get anything wrong? Y'all let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, or if you're part of the Danger Gang. I'm definitely back. And also, turn on post notifications to stay up to date on upcoming videos. Y'all stay safe and dangerous out there.